Still at the Mandela National Stadium here in Nambole, you can't say it is a place busy with activities, but that activity has less excitement. The Uganda Cranes, much as they qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations last night alongside South Africa, today they have put up one of their worst performances in a long time, and that worst performance that came with a 2-0 defeat to South Africa. Again, that you thought the Cranes should have built on their previous performances to put up a decent performance, but it was not the case. Joining me to break down the game is Peter Tabu, and of course we did catch the game with him. First of all, Peter, the atmosphere at Mandela National Stadium, almost 1 hour and a half since the game ended.
Yeah, the atmosphere is not, first of all, hello everyone. The atmosphere is not a very good one. Very, very sad faces that are walking out of the stadium going back home because of what has happened in this stadium a few hours ago as the Uganda Cranes lost to South Africa by 2-0. So even before full time, you would see fans throwing bottles, you know, and expressing their displeasure with how the Cranes performed today. So terrible performance from the Cranes, and the fans didn't like any of that.
By the way, this game was sold out 24 hours to kick off. That is before South Sudan played against Congo, because everybody wanted to be part of history when Uganda is beating South Sudan or taking a draw of South Sudan to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations. Nonetheless, much as the qualification was sealed when South Sudan did defeat Congo Brazzaville at 3-2, the fans still turned up in big numbers with hope that yes, the Cranes would pick up a result, but at least play some exciting football. When Uganda lost against Algeria here, we never saw the kind of reaction we saw today. Everyone left. Yes, we had lost the game, but everyone was happy that the Cranes had put up a decent performance. It was not the case today.
No, it wasn't the case today, Clive, because number one, you have to go back to the Uganda Cranes performance in this qualification campaign. The fans had not seen any of such a performance in all the games that the Cranes have played. 2-2 against South Africa away, 2-0 I think against Congo Brazzaville, 1-0 against South Sudan. It was always the Cranes scoring goals and winning games. Today, after they conceded the first goal, everyone saw that the Cranes were down. The players were not. You could hardly pick out a player in the Cranes team today that you felt, you know, deserved probably a handshake from a fan for putting up a good performance. So the fans are disappointed because the Cranes didn't give an effort. They did not give their all, even though they lost. And I feel like you mentioned in the intro, this is one of the worst Cranes performances that we've seen in a very, very long time here at the Mandela National Stadium. So definitely not a good performance.
Before I ask you what went wrong, let's look at the lineup that the head coach Paul put as input. Pretty much the same faces. Tadeo Ranga in goal, Ken Semakula at right back, Aziz Kayondo at left back, Bevis Mugabe starting at the heart of defense alongside Timothy Awani, who was later withdrawn at the break and replaced by Halida Arwariwa. You had Tadeo Ranga and Halida Wucho starting in midfield as expected, and this time around Alan Okello go to start. Jude Mugabe was the other with Dennis Omedi together with Rogers Mato. Pretty much the same players that have been a part of this campaign, with the exception of Timothy Awani, who was getting his first start of the campaign because Alan Okello started that game against the South Sudan in Juba.
Yeah, of course, you're right. The team that started today, most of the players have been part of the campaign. Maybe the only difference is Jude Mugabe, who has shifted in the striker role because, of course, Alan Okello and Omedi were on the flanks with Rogers Mato as well. Alan Okello slightly behind Jude Mugabe. I think that's how it was today. So there was not a lot of changes. But again, you look at that team and you're thinking most of these players have played in these qualifiers and they've played so well because Mugabe has a couple of goals. Alan Okello has picked up a couple of assists. Watenga has also had a couple of clean sheets here and there. So I mean, you felt maybe there wasn't going to be anything wrong that was going to happen for the Cranes. Unfortunately, after they conceded, because that's where the problem started from. When the Cranes conceded in the first half, they all switched off, and that is how Bafana Bafana took control and played like they were playing at the Orlando Stadium or whatever stadium in South Africa.
Peter, the question, the million-dollar question: what went wrong?
From my side, number one, I feel like every player that started for the Cranes today, I think it's safe to say.
Because why I'm asking,
yes.
I mean, did they have enough rest? Did they party until late in the night because they had qualified before this game?
I was looking for the right word, but I would say the complacency was at its highest today. We had a lot of complacency on that pitch, and I think that was probably down to because they were celebrating the day before that Cranes had qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations, and maybe the interruptions that we always see in camp, politicians coming in to say hello and stuff like that. I feel like that disrupted.
They always choose the wrong time to show up.
Yes, I feel like that disrupted the camp, and that made it hard for the players to concentrate and actually win today's game. Now, amidst all that happening, you're playing a South African team that finished third at the Nations Cup.
The previous
tournament.
This year.
You're having a team that has the best goalkeeper on the African continent, that has literally the best players in South Africa.
The best league on the continent.
And also, yes, absolutely. And this is a team that you're going to face, and then you have that level of complacency. You will always struggle. It will always be hard for you to get a result against a very good Bafana Bafana team. And you saw that was not even their top gear they engaged. They were literally just, having a training session, so to speak.
A kickabout.
Against the Uganda Cranes. And it's unfortunate that is how, this game ended.
Yes, of course, Peter, also the highlight of this game is the manner in which we considered the first goal. Tadeo Ranga fails to protect possession, fails to pick up a teammate. South Africa take advantage. They eventually get that lead. And from that moment, everyone has been picking on him as an individual. But I feel that we should probably not castigate him for whatever happened, because in one or the other, footballers are prone to making mistakes. But if you're to describe at that moment, what do you think probably happened in those few seconds to Tadeo Ranga?
Yeah, of course, football, that's football, I would say. Players go through good times and hard times, and that is one of those moments that is not exactly a good one for Tadeo Ranga, who played so well in Juba. When
even before that moment, you thought he had really put up a fight.
Even when the game started, he was doing well. But I think it was a decision-making situation where probably he needed to pass the ball to Atenga, or he thought to outmaster the people who are surrounding him to clear the ball. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. It's a sad moment. In front of all these fans,
millions watching on TV.
Yeah, you definitely think maybe you should have made a better decision. But I think he can pick himself up. It happens in football, and he can always pick himself up and do better. So I don't want to base on that too.
Exactly. And for me, why I was asking, we live in a country where people are very picky and petty, and you don't want this to be a decision not to recall Tadeo Ranga in the future on the national team, because we should remember that he was just returning on the national team. Of course, recalled for that game against South Sudan here. He started the game against South Sudan in Juba, where he put in a very good shift before starting again today. And you want to feel that that moment should not really determine whether he should be part of the future setups of the national team or not.
Oh, of course it shouldn't be. People do mistakes. If we are to go and scrutinize all the games that Uganda has played in this campaign and the mistakes that have been done by which player, it wouldn't be a good thing. So I don't think that should be the yardstick of Tadeo not coming back to the national team. He's a leader. He has experience, and he can still help the Uganda Cranes. So that is something that they can just put behind, and then of course he moves on with his national team career. That said, you also hope that he's also okay, because he was taken in an ambulance out of the stadium. The coach telling us that he's yet to exactly know what happened, but hopefully he's fine.
The second goal, what a beauty!
What a beauty! From Tito Masangwani, pulls the ball from the air from the left and slots it past Ishmael Watenga. The composure, the finish, you can, the execution,
the assurance.
Absolutely. That tells you the level of players Bafana has, and the stage at which they play football. Because Tito starts for Orlando Pirates. Pirates has won all their games this season so far. I think 7 in a row, and that's a team that has quality players. So when Tito comes off the bench and does something like that, you just have to respect and appreciate that. You know, he's a class above, and maybe that's something that the Cranes can, you know, look up to and maybe do better or improve on. You know, the next time we play, that's when we play Congo away.
Yes, before we talk about the game against Congo, in the post-match press conference, the head coach Paul put saying he could not recognize his players. He said the same in the first leg we played in South Africa. He said the first half he could not recognize his players. Fortunately, they were able to pick themselves up, but they nearly won that game. But this time round for 90 minutes, and you could see his body language on the touchline. Like he was wondering what was going on here, and he just probably decided to let this one pass. But just like the coach, I think everyone who watched the game in the stadium and on TV, they share the same sentiments.
Yeah, Paul Put has even said it in a post-match press conference. He says for him, the team that he saw train and prepare for South Africa was a well-prepared team. He doesn't know how such a team went onto the pitch and lost 2-0. He doesn't. He actually said he's ashamed of the performance the Cranes put up today, and I want to agree with him. That kind of performance is not something a Ugandan would proudly associate with, especially a Ugandan team that has scored these goals in the qualification campaign, that has won games like against Congo, took South Africa to the door, almost beating them. They definitely should have done better. So Paul Put is right. The Cranes have struggled today. They have really struggled. They need to improve and do better.
Peter, as we wind up, of course, the next stop, which should be the last in these qualifiers, will be in Brazzaville, playing against Congo, 19th. That should be the 19th of this month, 4 days from now. First of all, what kind of a team do you think that will be assembled, and what should really be the motive for the Uganda Cranes?
The motive should be completing this campaign on a high, go to Congo Brazzaville and get a result, at worst a draw, but knowing how much work Paul Put has to put in to mentally prepare these boys. I think it's going to be a bit hard for the Cranes to go out there and get a result against Congo. Congo pushed South Africa in Brazzaville. That game ended 1-1, you know. So at home, they are not an easy team. They will always give you problems structurally when you go there and you want to face them. So I think the Cranes are going to face it hard away. And the complacency again that we've already qualified makes it even harder. But Paul Put says he's going to do what he can in these remaining days to make sure the boys are mentally ready and available away to Congo.
On the eve of the game, which was yesterday here at the Mandela National Stadium, the team had guests from the Parliament of Uganda, led by the Speaker of Parliament. She gave them a pre-winning bonus of 50 million Uganda shillings, and she promised that if they win today, of course at the time Congo hadn't played South Sudan, and she was like, if we win today and we qualify, more was coming. She even promised to book them an appointment with the Fountain of Honor, the president of this country, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. They have lost the game, but they qualified 24 hours before this fixture. Surely the promises from government of qualification and the promises for them to qualify and visiting the head of state should still happen.
Not in Uganda. In Uganda, if you're promised, make sure you deliver. If you deliver, everything will go well. If you don't deliver, unfortunately, the promises disappear. So I don't think that is going to happen now. Maybe after the campaign is done, you know, after Congo and the team is celebrating qualifying for AFCON, maybe they can meet the head of state and all, but not after today's performance.
Yeah, but also, guys, whatever happened today happened, but it should not stop us from believing that actually we have a very young team that has the ability of playing very good football, and it has a bright future. We've watched this team play 5 games, and we must agree that 4 of the 5 games they have played have been very good, entertaining games, meaning that the head coach Paul Put has something to build on moving forward. This AFCON is a year from now.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Ugandans, this is when you need to be patient with the Uganda Cranes. This is when you need to stand together with them, because this team, like Clive has said, those 4 games that you've been talking about and screaming their names out and appreciating them, they played very well and they played very good football, very convincing games. So this one game shouldn't really make it seem like the Cranes are bad all of a sudden and they can't play or can't win games. Guys, I think the class, we need to appreciate Bafana Bafana and Uganda. where the two lie right now on the African continent. Bafana finished third, at the previous AFCON.
We've not been at the last two.
We've not been at the last two. We have to really appreciate that.
Okay, they also finished fourth. The last one we appeared to in Egypt.
Absolutely. So we need to appreciate that. I think this team has a very good future. Paul Putti has done a very good job, and his entire technical team. We can put this behind us. We've already qualified, and let's prepare for AFCON in December next year.
Let's prepare for AFCON in December next year. I don't know about Peter, but one thing I'm sure, I'll be in Morocco, inshallah. But of course, Peter, thank you for always being around CK Sports alongside the pitch side. And we've been honored to have Mr. Mehdi on the camera. He's been directing everything. And yes, that has been our AFCON update from Mandela National Stadium here in Nambole. Make a date with us again in our next episode.
Adios.